Hey everyone, this is Wet Slicks. We're back on TT Ironman Riding the Edge 3 for another video. This time following on from comparing all the super sports. I thought we'd do the Superbikes, where I think there's a couple more options really on what you could go for and the kind of the meta, I guess. Seems maybe a little bit less obvious. So you've essentially got, I think, 7 bikes to choose from in the main game. Of course, there's all sorts of different skins and different teams that you can choose from. You know, there's a bunch of Hondas, but they are, when it comes down to it, all the same internally. You know, they're going to give you the same power, the same top speed, and everything, no matter what skin you choose. So you've got Honda, Kawasaki, a couple of BMWs, Yamaha, and the Suzuki. And there is one other bike that was added with the 2023 DLC. Of course, again, a bunch of different skins, but there was one new bike, which was the updated BMW from 2023. We'll get onto that in a moment, but that thing is an absolute beast. We're going to start with the Kawasaki's. There's actually 2 of these, which I hadn't really realized. There is this one, the 2022 model, and there is another one that was a little bit sneaky because I didn't really realize that it was any different, but it turns out it is. So we're using all the same settings, I think, as we were for the Super Sports, with suspension and transmission and everything. And we'll just start off with section 1, not necessarily completing section 1 each time, but just to give a bit of an idea of the bike. So we're going to start with this Kawasaki ZX10RR, and I'm a bit of 2 minds about this thing because I love it. I think it's really cool. I think it's a cool looking bike. Sounds great, but it is very slow turning, I think, compared to some of the others, and pretty hard to control. Often find myself, like even here, having to sort of slow down, wrestle the bike over a turn, over a jump, you know, something. Just like you can never, I find I can never quite get into a flow with this thing. I end up crashing a lot more. Does pretty well there at the slow corners. It's quite good test this first part of the mountain course because you've got some bits that test top speed. You've got these roundabouts with this driving bridge that kind of test the slow corner stuff. But yeah, overall, this Kawasaki, this version, the 2022 model, I find, oh yeah, it's slowing down so much there. Just having to kind of wrestle it around and not, just don't quite feel like I ever get into a good flow with it. Good lines are really, really difficult to find. Just because it feels a little bit slower leaning than some of the other bikes. I think that'll become apparent as we kind of go on. Coming up here, let's have a look at the sort of top speed you can get up to. Yeah, it's sort of struggling a little bit. 197 there. Up and down to 5th. Around Balagary. But yeah, some of the other bikes are definitely got a bit of a better handle on top speed. It's not, I mean, it's not bad by any means, the top speed. But certainly, I mean, we're up at 200 there, 201, let's see, 202. So yeah, not terrible top speed, but not the best either. So let's have a look at the other Kawasaki now to compare. So this is the other Kawasaki. It is also a ZX10RR, but from 2019. You can see it looks very, very different, like the chassis and everything. You know, it's quite open, and the front is completely different. And I had thought, mistakenly, that this was essentially the same bike. It would behave the same in game, had the same, you know, horsepower and max speed and everything. No, I was absolutely wrong. This thing is very different. It handles very differently to the other Kawasaki ZX10 as well, I would say. But it is certainly not the beefiest bike on power, the performance points, the sort of points that the game uses to sort of determine how good your bike is as you upgrade it and everything. Certainly not as high. I think the max you get, I think on the BMW you get 699. This is 650. I think it's the lowest sort of rating, perhaps, of Superbike. And to me, this thing actually handles super nicely. I think part of the reason for that is that it is a little bit down on power. But because of that, you can just sort of like smoothly put it through a lot more of the corners. You kind of know where you are on the road. The bike, you know, goes where you want it to go, and just feels a little bit more controlled, maybe, than some of the others. I mean, particularly the other Kawasaki. I mean, it's like night and day. This thing is a lot smoother, a lot easier to handle, a lot easier to lean over as well. Where it struggles is the top end speed is pretty rubbish, to be honest. It really doesn't like being in sixth gear, struggles to get anywhere near 200 miles an hour, which, I mean, is pretty crucial. We have a big wobble there on so many of these sections around the mountain. You know, top speed is king. Speed and power, as I've taken a horrible line through there. So come down here, have another look. Yeah, kind of what we get up to, but kind of as I said on the last video with the Yamaha, it adds up every corner after corner. You just aren't getting quite the speed that the other bikes do. I think this bike definitely has some things going for it though, in that because it's easier to handle, because it's easier to, you know, get the lines that you want and easier to get the bike lent over. What are we up to here? Almost there. I don't think we've quite reached even 200 there. Yeah, because of all of that, and because of the easier handling, it definitely is a viable option. Especially if you're newer to the game. I think it's a fun bike to use. I think it's cool looking as well. It sounds great. This is the Kawasaki, and we'll have a look maybe at the Yamaha next and see how that does in comparison. So this is the Yamaha that we're going to have a bit of a look at now with James Hillier's Rich Energy from 2022. I haven't ridden this bike a load recently, so it's going to be interesting to see kind of how this feels. I think, again, a lot like the R6, the R1 just struggles a little bit for top speed and power compared to a lot of the other top bikes. Again, cool looking bike though. I really like this with the gold and everything. It looks really cool. I love the sound of it as well. It's a very low kind of baritone drone to it. Very controlled, very good handling. I kind of remember that, but again, just kind of lacking top speed, lacking power. I mean, especially compared to like the BMWs, for example. But again, I think this is another really good bike if you're struggling with you know, the power and speed of some of the other ones. And it's the acceleration, and this will become clear as we get to the BMWs, but the acceleration at high speed, because like the acceleration at low speed isn't too bad. That was very nice. That was very controlled through there. I was able to carry a lot of speed through. That's the only thing I think is you can kind of make it up if the handling is so nice and natural, and you can flow through the corners faster than you do with some of the other bikes. Because some of the other bikes, yes, they have more power. You get up to, yeah, not even 200 there. Yes, they have more power, but you do find yourself having to brake a bit more sometimes before the corners, drop a bit more speed. Maybe you can't flow through as many of these corners as you could do maybe on a bike like this. So that's the one time where you can kind of make it up and use maybe a bike like this. So we're going to have a look at the Suzuki next, and then maybe the BMWs. Okay, so this is the Suzuki. It's the GSX R1000R from 2019. This is Michael Dunlop's 2022 machine. Back when he was on a Suzuki. He changes around bikes a lot. It's amazing how many races he's won. Well, it's just amazing how many races he's won, but it's also incredible that they've often been on quite different machinery as well. Because I believe the year after he was on a Honda, and then this year, of course, he was on BMW and did amazingly. Again, another cool livery. Quite like the look, and the sound of this bike is awesome. As we head down the hill here, and there is one word that I associate with this Suzuki, and it is smooth. It is so smooth to ride that it's almost a bit of a problem. It's almost a bit too smooth. Just that, like, I don't know, you feel that the inputs aren't quite lining up and outbracing ourselves a little bit there. So that's made it work. But yeah, just compared to a lot of the other bikes, this thing, it almost leans a little bit too quickly. It's like kind of off-putting. And then you get like mid-corner understeer, which is kind of annoying on those slow speed corners. Again, I don't think the top speed on this is fantastic. It's a little bit better than that old Kawasaki, but I think again we're going to struggle to hit 200. Almost 200 there. Oh yeah, understeer. So much understeer. So yeah, smooth, but then doesn't really just kind of understeers annoyingly, like mid-corner. Maybe that's me just playing the game badly, but let's see, up here, top of Crosby, 197, a little bit better top speed actually than I remembered. 200, about the same as the Kawasaki, I would say. We reached 201 there. I think the 2022 Kawasaki got to 202, right? So pretty close on top speed. But yeah, I think this thing is a little bit, it feels very, very smooth until it doesn't, and that's like kind of off-putting. You don't really know when it's just going to go on you. Again, kind of like understeering a bit through there. This corner, also understeering on the pavement. And not quite, so yeah, it's super, super smooth, and then suddenly you're understeering, you've lost control, you're on the pavement, you're in a wall. So not the easiest thing to use either. As you might be able to tell by now, yeah, a lot of my favorite bikes are the BMWs in this game. So we'll have a look at the S1000 first, and then the M's. Okay, on to the fun stuff. So this is one of, if not my favorite bike in this game, the BMW S1000 RR from 2019. This is Gary Johnson's sort of Specsaver sponsored bike, and I love this thing. I think it's amazing. I think it's fast. I think it handles incredibly, incredibly well in that it's smooth. You can get into a flow. The bike goes where you want it to. You feel like you have a lot of grip around the corners as well. So we'll have a look at it. The only problem with this bike, it doesn't quite have the power and the grunt that the oh my goodness, what on earth am I doing? The BMW M1000s have. Yeah, it handles better, but it doesn't have the power that those bikes have, and it doesn't quite have the top speed either. Go around here, around Quarter Bridge. Also, I kind of struggle with wheel spinning a bit more with this bike. I don't really know why, but as long as you're kind of careful with the throttle, normally not too bad. This is probably the bike I've used more than any other in this game that I'm the most comfortable with as well. I just love it. I think it looks cool. Sounds good. The liveries that you've got available in both the base game and the DLC are great. Oh, I should not be braking there. A huge moment. I'm interested to see where we get to with the top speed, because I remember it being pretty good, probably about the same as the Honda or the Kawasaki, the newer Kawasaki. But I think more than anything else, I just find this bike the most fun, maybe, to use, because it doesn't have the insane power, a bit wide, that the BMW M1000s have. You're not having to, you're not on the edge of your seat so much, you're having to like over control the bike, you're not having to maybe brake as hard into some of the corners, so you can get into like a really nice flow as we get to 202 miles an hour there pretty comfortably. So maybe a little bit better top speed than the newer Kawasaki. Yeah, wheel spin. Lots of wheel spin if you're not careful with the throttle on this bike. That's the one thing you kind of have to be careful of. But you just feel like you're in a lot of control. You can get really close to the curbs. You can put your head into the hedges, and I feel like this bike has a lot more precision, maybe, than some of the others. I mean, certainly to like the new Kawasaki, although that did have decent top speed, it just feels so clunky, and this is completely the opposite. It just feels really, really good on the road. So that is it for this one. Maybe before we have a look at the BMWs, I totally forgot about the Honda, so we'll go back and we'll have a look at the Honda, and then we'll do the other BMWs after that. So here we are with the Honda, the CBR 1000 RSP from 2022, and this is John McGuinness from his 100th start at the TT a couple of years ago. This was such a cool livery that he did for him with all, I think there were pictures from every single start that were in like a sort of film reel on the bike, which was super, super cool. This is a bike a little bit like the Supersport Honda, that it's a great all-rounder. It goes fast, it's got good acceleration, decent handling, and you can put in some very, very good lap times with. Additionally, looks awesome, sounds great. Let's have a look here what we can do with the man, John McGuinness, down Bray Hill. And yeah, this was all flat out pretty comfortably. The BMWs, the M1000s, often I have to back out of there. You don't feel like you lose too much time. Oh my goodness, we've just killed John McGuinness. It has the handling and sort of precision that the BMW S1000 has. It goes where you want it to go. You point it in a direction, it's going to go in that direction. It feels really precise, but it doesn't get that wheel spin problem that the S1000 seems to have, where you're on the accelerator very quickly after the corner, and the wheel's not just going to spin out on you. It actually grips very, very quickly, very nicely. So this is definitely, oh my goodness, terrible. Again, just braking through there doesn't work, and I need to remember that. There's just a bit of a dip, a bump in the road there. If you kind of brake into it, on this low side, the bike falls out from underneath you. We'll get into 6th gear, up the hill here, around this little right-hand kink. I remember the top speed on this thing being pretty good. Yeah, even after, oh, bumpy. Back off a little bit there. Yeah, the top speed on this thing I remember being pretty good, about equal with the Suzuki, maybe a little bit better than the Suzuki and the newer Kawasaki. 202, 203. So yeah, top speed, ooh, around the hedge there. Yeah, top speed maybe a tiny bit better than the 2022 Kawasaki and the Suzuki. There's no bad point about this bike really. Like it's powerful, amazing grip and feel on the road. It's a fantastic, fantastic all-round bike. Having said that, along with the BMW S1000, shares the same issue in that it doesn't quite have the power and the top speed of the M1000s, which we will have a look at momentarily. This is the BMW M1000 RR from 2021. If you don't own the DLC, this is kind of the last bike that in the game that you would have access to. As I said, there is kind of one other from the DLC, but this bike is crazy. It's you can feel immediately that it has so much more power than the other bikes. Massive acceleration, better top speed, and it is just kind of a beast. I love the sort of winglets on the front of the bike. Wasn't always a fan of those, but I do think they look quite cool these days. We come down Bray Hill. And this bike does feel somewhat in control, but also, yeah, it does feel like a big, beastly bike as well. That some of these corners you're having to slow down for much earlier, or that you would just be able to kind of flow around. In this, it's a little bit more tricky to sort of thread those lines. You know, the bike's kicking up everywhere. If you drop the anti-wheelie, you're going to get massive wheelies from these things. Yeah, it feels like you're trying to ride this like horse that doesn't want to be ridden. In a way, it's like trying to buck you off at every opportunity, but also feels like very decently stable as well on the road. If you do know where to back off, you know, you have your braking points a little bit earlier, then yeah, I think overall feels pretty stable. And this thing can definitely get up to, yeah, what are we at, 204? I was going to say 205, 206. Down solidly straight, you can definitely get the bike to 206, 207 if you've got it geared that way, the top end speed. But yeah, at the same time, like, doesn't feel clunky. It doesn't quite have the precision, maybe, that like the Honda and the S1000s have, but it feels pretty good overall. Feels like it's got like good grip. But yeah, amazing acceleration on this bike, and the top speed is pretty mega. So in kind of the base game, for the fastest times, this would be the bike, really. But there is one other. In the DLC, they released a slightly newer version of this bike that is very slightly faster and slightly beastlier. So we will try that now. Now with the slightly newer model of the BMW M1000RR from 2023, this is Josh Brooks's machine from that year. And it is slightly different to the other one, which I wasn't necessarily expecting, because I mean every single other bike in this DLC is exactly the same as all the others, but you can see the performance points 2 points higher than the other BMW M1000 from the previous year. It is the newer model. It looks slightly different. It's got a slightly different chassis and everything, and it is a bit more powerful, and you can definitely feel that. It is just insanely quick, fast, so much power, and you can see it immediately. You can kind of feel it, but oh, it's just such a beast. And it kind of struggles with, I guess, the same thing as the other M1000s, in that because it's so powerful, you definitely have to know where to control the bike, where to lean it in, braking a little bit earlier, and trying to sort of thread those lines where maybe the other bikes you can just sort of carry the speed. It feels, and that's the other thing I guess about this one, it's maybe even more so than the other M1000. This does feel quite nervous to ride, just because you never really know when it's just going to go on you, because you're carrying so much speed, so much power, the acceleration's crazy, that it's very easy to lose this bike over a little bump or a dip you didn't notice in the road. It's quite amazing, this game. It's so detailed, actually, the road surfaces and everything. Carry a nice bit of speed through a Balagiri there. I'll have a look at this thing's mega top speed. You know, it easily hits 200. It loves 6th gear. Brake a little bit through there. And yeah, on Solby Straight, this thing will hit 207, 208 even, which is just crazy. So yeah, 202, 204. Yeah, probably could have hit 205 maybe there. And it's fantastic because, I mean, if you're carrying that much speed there, you know, on all the other straights, you're doing the same. Through the corners, you're able to get just as much, if not a little bit more, speed through the bike than some of the others. So for me, this is the fastest bike. It absolutely is the fastest bike in the game. Whether you can use it as well as some of the others, I think is a bit more debatable. Like in the Clips course, if you look at the leaderboards, a lot of the top times with the S1000 BMW maybe shows you that either that bike has better acceleration or the handling of this kind of bike, you know, the M1000 just doesn't quite work as well because you're not able to flow around those corners, and there really aren't a lot of straights on that circuit. But yeah, this has been all of the Superbikes in the game. Hope this has helped, and see you next time for something else. I am thinking of starting maybe a career mode or something like that, so hope to see you there shortly for that. Thanks.